we started working right away to make sure that our freshmen developed a presence and a positive profile in their districts. To do this, we started an aggressive community outreach effort for all of our freshman lawmakers. They've been knocking on doors since the summer of '09, holding dozens upon dozens of town hall meetings, and having open office hours in their district, plenty of constituent service and constituent contact, which is the name of the game in a local race. We did these things because we wanted to provide a voice to our constituents, first and foremost, but we also wanted to establish a strong presence in each of these districts. Our candidates have established themselves in their communities and are showing numbers that resemble four-term incumbent legislators. We have what it takes to win respective candidates. We have what it takes to win in terms of our candidates doing the work on the ground. We will have the financial resources to be very competitive in each of these districts. We'll go ahead and turn it over to Representative Jay Goyal. Jay.
Thank you, Matt. I going to focus really on those last few points that Speaker Pro Tem Szollosi just mentioned, the financial resources as well as the grassroots campaign. As it relates to a financial advantage, we've been successful over the past few elections because our candidates understand the effectiveness of an aggressive door-to-door campaign. In addition to having that aggressive door-to-door campaign, we are going to be having a strong financial advantage to reinforce the grassroots communications, the paid communications. When the last caucus reports were filed, we, as the Ohio House Democratic Caucus, had raised more money than any other caucus, whether they be House or Senate, whether they be Democrat or Republican, in the history of the state of Ohio. We have raised over $7 million, which was a record here in the state of Ohio, and had over $6 million cash on hand. This compared to our counterparts that had a little over $2 million cash on hand, which currently gives us a 3-to-1 cash on hand advantage. We actually filed with more money in the bank than the House Republican Caucus and the Senate Republican Caucus combined, which frankly in Ohio is unprecedented. As we go forward, I only expect us to increase the financial advantage that we have. In addition to the strong financial that we have, that we previously have never had in any of our campaigns, we have an extremely aggressive door-to-door program. Over the past 3 election cycles, we have picked up 17 House seats. We've done this because we know how important and effective grassroots and door-to-door campaign is. There's been a lot of talk about the national environment not being good for Democrats. There's been a lot of talk about the generic ballot and how if you look at those factors, those alone are enough to predict Democrats' doomsday scenario on election day, the loss of the House for the House Democrats here in the state of Ohio. But I can tell you, in state legislative districts with manageable voter populations, individual conversations between a candidate and a voter will make the difference. State legislative districts, state house districts here in Ohio, are about the largest districts you can have where you can still run aggressive grassroots campaigns, engage in one-on-one conversations, and overcome any sort of national environment, generic ballot disadvantage, or top of the ticket disadvantage. I know this because I have personal experience with this. When I first ran for office in 2006, I was running in a district that was Republican. In the previous election in 2004, George W. Bush got almost 60% of the vote in my district. But I knew what I had to do in order to win, and I set out knocking on over 10,000 doors over the course of my campaign. And by knocking on those doors, I was able to connect with the voters in my district on a one-on-one level, and was able to convey to them what my values were and what I stood for. And the fact that I happened to be a Democrat, the fact that I happened to be 25 years old, the fact that I had never held office before, didn't matter nearly as much to them as the fact that I took the time to knock on their door, and whether they were a conservative Republican or a liberal Democrat, they were going to vote for me. I had a primary in my campaign, a primary opponent who was supported by many of the institutional players in the party, and I knocked on thousands of doors in my primary and got 61% of the vote. In my general election, I similarly had a strong Republican candidate. He was a targeted district for the House Republican Caucus. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars attacking me, calling me, saying that I was going to do all sorts of things, but because I had knocked on over 10,000 doors, I overperformed the top of the ticket by over 10 percentage points and won my district by over won my district by over 20 points. In 2008, I received the highest total any Democrat has ever received in the state legislative seat in that district, and overperformed the top of the ticket by over 21 percentage points. So if anyone tells you that an effective door-to-door campaign can't make a difference, anyone tells you that this outcome has been predetermined by the national environment or by the generic balloting that may be out there, I'll tell you that they do not know how to run an effective grassroots state house campaign. In addition to that, take for example the fact that in 2008 there were 15 seats where a majority of voters supported the presidential candidate of one party, but then voted for a state house candidate of the opposite party. As Representative Szollosi had mentioned, strong incumbents can overperform their national, the generic balloting by over 22 percentage points. As you can see, my case, my situation was not an anomaly. There are key seats throughout the state where voters split their ticket because of the local nature of the races. This is exactly why an effective grassroots strategy is particularly important in state house districts. The candidates that are willing to knock on enough doors have the ability and will defy national trends. So if anyone tells you that these state house races aren't about local issues, then frankly, they don't know what they're talking about. With that, I'd like to turn it over